ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिचारुस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। Hare Krishna. Extremely grateful for this opportunity to share something about my offering to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj and all the uh, assembled devotees on Zoom. And thank you very much, Adi Gadadapu, for sharing such a wonderful, heartfelt offering of how the words and the affection of Maharaj really help you to re-establish coming from such a pious background. And then now we can see how you are inspiring so many hundreds of devotees by a really heartfelt and classes and exemplary sadhana. Uh, I would like to share a few of personal reflections, personal experiences that I had with his divine grace Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and also something that I have been hearing from other senior devotees across this week. So there was something really wonderful that I heard from His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj just 2 days back on the day when he passed away. He shared this the how Srila Prabhupada saw Bhakti Charu Maharaj coming to Krishna consciousness, and he was explaining that in the 1970s, Srila Prabhupada established the movement in the West that was the desire of his spiritual master that he fulfilled. But then he came back to India because it was his personal desire to establish the movement back in India, because even in India the movement was dwindling after the whole Gaudiya Math collapse crisis. So he brought back the Western disciples and he was establishing in different places, and through them he wanted to make the Indian population devotees. But as was the case that time, many of them really appreciated and were becoming life members to the Krishna consciousness movement, but hardly anybody was joining. The situation was similar. Previously, Prabhupada went to the West. Prabhupada was begging, at least give your one son to me, and then I'll train him up to be a wonderful Brahmana. But nobody was giving in spite of having 3, 4 children with them. And even now, there was hardly anyone that was coming and becoming a dedicated disciple. And Prabhupada was really concerned about the future of movement in India, especially because of the political scene that was there. Like there was the rule of Indira Gandhi, and there was always this fear that if something we don't particularly follow, and there was this whole allegation that ISKCON is somehow connected to CIA, and all these people are spying. So there was great uncertainty that in case the visas are cancelled for the Western devotees, then they have to go back, and then the movement in India will collapse, which was Srila Prabhupada's personal wish, desire. And therefore, in those days, we keep hearing that whenever Prabhupada met any type of political person, he always used to ask them that please grant my Western disciples visa. We hear this particularly with Srinathji Prabhu, N.D. Desai's father, who was MP that time when Prabhupada met him. This was the thing that can you make Jai Patak Maharaj Indian citizen? And so And then Prabhupada also directly wanted to go and meet Indira Gandhi with this request. And Hridayan Maharaj was explaining that many disciples felt, especially the leaders that time, that it's risky to go and meet the prime minister, because in case the meeting doesn't go well, then even whatever little visas for 6 months they were getting, even that will be difficult to have. And but Prabhupada nevertheless took the risk and went and met, and the meeting was cordial. And then and even there, that was his request. And the whole thing that Rizan Maharaj was explaining was that how much Prabhupada was very much unhappy that no Indians were becoming devotees, and how much it rested on the Western devotees and how he wants them to stay. But then during the later years, when His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who is sorry, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj became uh, a devotee, it was such a joy and such a relief for Srila Prabhupada. And Maharaj was explaining, because he was also there personally in those times, that Srila Prabhupada really got a hope that for India, that yes, even Indians will become devotees. And especially Bhakti Charu Maharaj was coming from a Bengali family, aristocratic Bengali family, and there was this accusation since Bhaktivinoda Thakur times that Gaudiya Vaishnavism is usually for beggars. Even now, if you go to Bengal, you will see beggars chanting the Hare Krishna mantra with their harmonium and just begging. And that was the kind of uh, acceptance level of Krishna consciousness that was there in Bengal. And so for the whole Indian subcontinent, and also especially for Bengal, when an aristocratic uh, person like Bhakti Charu Maharaj joined, Prabhupada really got a lot of hope. So yes, Srila Prabhupada is transcendentally situated, but oftentimes used to I feel discouraged when things were not going well, or devotees were fighting. And he also said that when devotees distributed books, this was told by Sachinandan Maharaj, that Prabhupada said that when devotees excel or dedicate themselves in their services, I feel very much encouraged. So, although it was Srila Prabhupada who gave so much hope to the whole world, in this particular context, joining of Bhakti Charu Maharaj gave so much hope to Srila Prabhupada about the India. And now, and he was explaining, now the tables have turned, that in fact, because the movement grew in India, therefore, even though the West had severe difficulty, now almost most of the temples in America are being supported and sustained because of the Indian devotees that were initially made there in India and now in the West. So there was a very amazing perspective that he presented, at how the Bhakti Charu Maharaj, because of his gentle demeanor and the background where he's coming from, it was really hope giving for Prabhupada. And he was saying that usually a father likes to have a child that will continue his movement, that will take up his business. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj, coming from his the same kind of background that he is coming from, an Indian, a Bengali, and scholarly, that could relate with the nuances of Calcutta. And so Srila Prabhupada really saw a spiritual son in Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So, and therefore he very soon accepted him uh, as very personal associate. And then, so this was a perspective which I thought I'll share with the devotees here. And I was very fortunate, and I extend deep gratitude to His Grace Sunil Madhav Prabhu and Shamapriya Mataji in Chicago. When in 2004, I had come to Krishna consciousness 99 in Juhu temple, and later got connected in 2000 into Chopati. And then I wanted to uh, dedicate my life in right in IIT, but then because for some financial reason, just to procure some Lakshmi before I joined to give to my parents, I came to the West. And as Adigadar was explaining, I was also facing intense challenge adjusting myself. And my Guru Maharaj, Anandana Maharaj, he had before going to America, he had told me that you're going to Chicago. Chicago is like Badrinath. You go there to do tapasya, not a sense gratification. So somehow I took that instruction very close to my heart, and I was trying to do uh, great tapasya, but internally it was difficult. So the association of uh, two families, three families mainly in Chicago, Sunil Madhav Prabhu's family, Balram Prabhu's family, and Nityanand Pran Prabhu's family, who is currently the temple president, really gave me a lot of shelter there. And Sunil Madhav Prabhu being the disciple of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and then the president of Chicago Temple, Maharaj, whenever he was coming, he used to stay there. And of course, there was sometimes there was a servant who used to come along with Maharaj, but many a times Maharaj was coming alone, and that time they needed someone to serve Maharaj, be his personal servant. And then because I was aspiring to be a brahmachari, and then it is said in the scriptures in the seventh canto that it is the duty of a brahmachari to be a humble servant to a sannyasi. Personally, with my spiritual master, I hardly got that opportunity, but in 2004, uh, whenever Bhakti Charu Maharaj visited Chicago, I was his personal servant. I got the great fortune of washing his clothes, iron his clothes, and serve him prasad. And those times, he was, as all devotees voiced, all senior devotees, his gentleness, his total humility, and his affection were just pouring all through. And I particularly remember once when we were serving Maharaj, and somehow this topic had come about Srila Prabhupada's final days. And then slowly he started to speak. It was just Sunil Madhav Prabhu, myself, and Shamapriya Mataji that were there in the house. And then he started to just, it was not just speaking those last days. It was just he was living those, and he was just started to share. And almost for 3 hours he was just narrating. It was usually when we narrate, or when we are such a at a big stature, we think a lot to manage our energy. Like personally, when I travel, the more than managing my time, it is more about managing my energy. So how, where do I spend what, how much energy? There is a lot of thinking that is going on. But I saw Maharaj was just for 3 hours, he was just speaking to us about those last days. Unfortunately, because of my poor memory, I don't remember the whole story as he explained. Of course, the story which he usually says, but when he was just reflecting and just within himself, just trying to share all the difficulties, internal challenges he was facing, and it was really heart touching. And so 2004 I got that, 2004 to 2006, when I was in US, I got that great fortune, and I feel greatly blessed to have that opportunity to serve Maharaj. And later when I joined in 2006 as part of initial brahmachari training, we went to the Ujjain, because that's where Krishna was a brahmachari. everywhere else, say in Vrindavan, in Dwarka, he was always surrounded with gopis. But it was in Ujjain that in the Avanti Desh, he was a brahmachari. So we all wanted to go and spend some time there, and we chose the time that Bhakti Charu Maharaj was there. So in 2008, we all went to be with Bhakti Charu Maharaj and hear him, uh, spend some time with him. And he gave so much time spending with all the new brahmacharis, and again so much affection. And the Govindas was there. Any of you that visited, he has built a world class temple, guest house, Govindas, all in apparently not so important place materially, like Ujjain. And so he said that I want to serve all of you pizza. And in 2008, uh, Chopati had Govindas, but it was we, and being brahmacharis, we didn't had much pizzas or much exposure to eating in different restaurants. But then he said, I from my side, I'll feed all the brahmacharis pizza. And we had a wonderful pizza party that Maharaj was had arranged. And some of as soon as you get into the party mode, usually then you become, sometimes you start to get wild. And we there was the whole cold drinks section that was there. We were not aware that those were not sponsored by Maharaj. Maharaj didn't expect that we will just loot that aspect also. We all just barged in, some of us, not all of us, and Sprite and all kinds of cold drinks, along with all the things that we were eating. And later the temple really became upset, because it was a big bill that one was sponsored by Maharaj. And somehow they conveyed it to Maharaj. Maharaj, see, this is what we wanted to give them some nice time. And later we are also feeling sorry. But then Maharaj was very gracious. He just said, fine, just include that also in the bill, and I will take care of it. So that was very heart touching, that incident of Maharaj. How even though we made mistake, a very costly mistake in terms of money, still he forgave us. He accepted us. He never brought out that in any, or how brahmachari should not be like this. He personally always exemplified great strictness, but when it comes to devotees, he was very very accommodative. And so that was in 2008. And just last year, I had shared in one of the Bhagavatam classes here that recently, when GBC meetings happened in Tirupati, I was also traveling in the same flight, and Maharaj was there, and I was in economy section. But I don't want to add narrated this at length in the other class. But Maharaj wanted me to be with stay sit with him in the business class, and I was insisting very much. And then I went and sat, and because I didn't want to spend unnecessarily the money. But Maharaj sent his personal servant, and it is still a very strong scene in my heart, where Krishna Kishore Prabhu, Maharaj's personal servant, after everybody was seated, came into the economy section. I was seated in one of the last sections, and he literally pulled me out. He said that, Prabhu, Maharaj is calling you, and you come with your bag. And sometimes economy sections are like third class compartment now it has in India. And I remember myself picking my all my belongings and walking through all that chaos into that blissful association of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And it was symbolic of how a sadhu literally picks you off from filth, from materialistic situation, and places you at his lotus feet. And he wanted to give me all kinds of comfort. And later he inquired how am I doing and where, and I was not a big person. I'm I don't have any GBC position or any kind of leadership position even in ISKCON, just a small little preacher that is doing one or two programs here and there. But the kind of affection and the hope that he saw in giving the time to the next generation. And Indradumna Maharaj always says this, that the reason why he spends so much time with little children was when he was a small kid, he had a great hero, I think, in soccer, in football. And then once in one of the matches, the soccer hero whom he was looking up to, he came and gently no- uh, gave him affection and gave him some encouraging words, and that inspired him so much to be do something for the world and be a great hero. So same way I didn't see Maharaj doing something special because of anything that was in me, but seeing that he needs to give that affection to the next generation so that they are encouraged. And then it was uh, even more heart rendering for me to find to know that this was the fourth leg of the Maharaj journey. Maharaj was coming to Bombay from Middle East. He couldn't even go to the temple. He just took a 3 hours layover there. And even in the Middle East, it was not his first initial start beginning. He had flown from New Jersey, and even New Jersey was not his first stop. He had started his journey from D-Land, from Orlando. So from Orlando to New Jersey was one flight, then a small layover, then and from New Jersey to Middle East, and then Middle East to Bombay, and then Bombay to Tirupati. So in the fourth leg of the journey, he meets some devotee who is traveling, but because he is way far away, he wants to give whatever best he can. And this is, I hope, this lesson of how we should try our best to comfort devotees and serve devotees the best we can, in spite of personal challenges, personal difficulties we may be facing. So I hope I never forget this, and I was really touched. And I didn't share what happened after at the end of the flight, which was also a great quality of Maharaj, which I'd like to share here. I hope I'm not exceeding too much time. There is just one more thing that I want to share, and then I'll stop my offering to Maharaj. Towards the end of it, along with us in the business class was also Narasimha Kavach Prabhu, who is the DT worship in charge. And so Narasimha Kavach Prabhu and they were discussing, and he was also talking to me many times, and he asked me about a book that I was reading, and he had asked me to send a copy, and then I arranged it later. And then towards the end of when the flight was about to land, Maharaj asked Narasimha Kavach Prabhu, "Do you have any luggage?" And then Narasimha Kavach Prabhu also was traveling from some other place, so he had luggage. And then he asked me, "Do you have any luggage?" And then I said, "No, Maharaj, I just have a small backpack." And uh, so then he told Narasimha Kavach Prabhu, "Prabhu, Krishna Kishore Prabhu will get my baggage, and you also get your baggage. So you and Krishna Kishore Prabhu come in one vehicle. In the meanwhile, we'll proceed ahead. Myself and Braj Mohan, we will go ahead." And I shouldn't say this, but there was some kind of surprise in Narsingh Coach Pro's face, that Maharaj is leaving him, and he wanted to see what he can do best. He wanted to go early and be there for the meetings or meet devotees. And so then when this was communicated to the local coordinators, they were also taken aback, because they had arranged one big car with Innova, like a SUV that could accommodate both their big baggages and also Nursing Coach Prabhu Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj and his servant. And then for me, they had sent a small little car. Say in India we call it Swift or I-10. So so now so they expressed that that Maharaj, the luggage won't come in the small car. So Maharaj immediately said, then you keep the big car, then we will go in the small car. But good sense prevailed to those devotees, and they said, no, Maharaj, you go in the big car. So myself and Bhakti Charu Maharaj, we traveled, and in the journey, he was just speaking about how he was, because me coming from an IIT background, most of our discussions have always been scientific. Uh, it's the first time that Bhakti Charu Maharaj met me in Chicago. As soon as I learned that I was a nuclear physicist in BARC, and coming from IIT background, immediately he started to inquire about. The first thing he asked that, what do scientists say about moon landing? And then it was a long discussion that I had with Maharaj. And then now he started to speak about how we should also try to preach to the scientists, and he started to quote an experience recently how he met a big Nobel laureate, and how he questioned him something which he didn't have an answer. The life comes from life discussion, that how organic matter can come from inorganic things. And I my intelligence and memory is so weak that I still don't remember, but at that time really appreciated his shrewd intelligence after such a long journey. And even then when he was meeting, how much his intelligence was sharp. So, and then the we arrived at the temple, and all there were around 50 devotees waiting with garlands, two garlands, one for Bhakti Charu Maharaj, one for Narsim Kavach Prabhu. And they were quizzed seeing a small little brahmachari there. And Maharaj was not even getting out. He was continually discussing about his one particular preaching incident, that with himself and Sadhaputa Prabhu, how they were preaching at one particular time. He was just sharing. And devotees outside were getting restless because Maharaj was not getting out. And I was getting restless seeing the devotees outside getting restless. And I thought all the anger will come upon me. Then I reminded Maharaj, temple has come, devotees are waiting. And then he kindly gave me his mobile number, he gave me his email ID, and he when he got to know that I do travel to United States to serve in some projects that Maharaj is helping. Then he also invited me to D-Land. So I had made up my mind that this year when I visit, I have to go there and spend some time, do some service there. Maybe next year I will fulfill that last request that Maharaj had to for me to spend some time in D-Land. And then whenever during the GBC meetings, whenever he met me, it was like a father meeting his lost son, and he was like, used to become so happy. There was hundreds of devotees, and for each one of them he was like that. Oh, where have you been? How are you? And take care of yourself. Are you properly situated? And such kind of universal compassion that he possessed, as Loknath Maharaj said that Maharaj is truly a Jagat Guru, one who became the spiritual master for the entire world by his de- amazing dedication. So I, I'll end with one small little question that was asked to Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Somebody had sent me that there was some reporter, some devotee, or who had asked that all if all the intelligent people become sannyasis or renounce the world, because usually it seems that if you have intelligence, then you will not get absorbed in material life and you will want to become a brahmachari or a sannyasi. So what will happen to the world? What will happen to the and you being such a intelligent and advanced person, what will happen to your DNA? Because if you are married, your DNA would have come to the next generations, and that if okay. There was a small interruption in the power here. If you were married, your DNA would have passed on, but now that you are not married, what will happen to your DNA? And then Maharaj started to say that Prabhupada said that he wanted all his boys to be brahmacharis and all his girls to get good husbands. And Prabhupada said, this is my problem. How can I have all my girls to have good husbands, and how can I have all my boys to be good brahmacharis? And then he said, don't worry, there are so many intelligent people that come, and he said, and even similarly, Srila Prabhupada's lineage was not taken up by those who shared his DNA. It was those who dedicated their lives to Srila Prabhupada, like Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So as Hridayan Maharaj said, he was like a spiritual son who didn't share the bodily DNA, but the DNA of his heart that Bhakti Charu Maharaj took and he shared. So I just made a small acronym that if we can also share the DNA with Bhakti Charu Maharaj and great souls like this. And so D stands for dedication, the way he was dedicated totally to Srila Prabhupada. If we can share that. And N stands for being non-envious. Almost all devotees share that the way he can be so generous and kind to everyone is because he was really non-envious. This was one of the first classes that I heard from Bhakti Charu Maharaj was dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. So he really focused on that word, that nirmatsara. Till we don't become non-envious, our spiritual journey doesn't start. And it's a great obstacle in all of our spiritual life to be non-envious. And Maharaj really showed this quality, no matter who it is, what they are doing, that he was always appreciated his non-envious nature. And finally, the last quality that by which we can share the DNA of Maharaj is his adventurous spirit. He is willing to take all types of risks, how the movement can go ahead, whether it be making the Abhay Charan series, whether it be uh, traveling all over the world, Iron Curtain all over the world, or recently his willingness to travel to United States in spite of the COVID. So that adventurous spirit to be willing to uh, take any types of risk to in the in the mission of his guru. If you can take these three qualities, dedication, non-enviousness, and adventurous spirit, risk, we hope that we can continue the legacy, share the DNA, and be Abel's sons and daughters and nieces of such a great parampara that we have been connected to. So on this day, I pray to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj to please bless me with this DNA so that I make my life successful. Hare Krishna.